All right, guys. France have just, obliterated Netherlands by 4 goals to nil in a game where it was done and dusted in 10 minutes, really, if we're being honest. France were just too good for Holland tonight. Netherlands, whatever you want to call them. It was just a class apart, to be honest. And I understand that Netherlands weren't able to put out their best showing tonight, given the fact that they were missing a fair few players, new manager as well. Well, I say new manager, different manager. Ronald Koeman has obviously managed the Dutch national team before, but they were missing a lot of players. Matthijs de Ligt, Frenkie de Jong, Denzel Dumfries, Cody Gakpo. The list goes on. You know, there were a lot of players missing, and that meant that players who wouldn't normally start for Holland were in the starting 11, including Xavi Simons, who I think is a really good player, but you know, it's just one of them where it's always going to be tough. I mean, when you're making your first ever start or first full debut, for your country, you don't really need it being against before the last World Cup, the reigning world champions and a team that were a penalty shootout away from winning 2 World Cups in a row. So, you know, it's not an ideal situation to make your debut. As well as that, Kenneth Taylor, who got hooked off after 30 minutes on his debut, that must be horrible for him. He didn't have a great game when he was on the pitch, but it just wasn't an ideal circumstance. And I think when you look at, even with the lack of options Koeman had, there was still a couple of midfielders that he could have started ahead of someone like Taylor in this game. When you look at the bench and you see something experienced like Davy Klaassen. So I just think it was the wrong choice to throw some of the young players into a humongous game, a humongous challenge like this for their national team debuts. And as well as that, Geertruid at centre back, he moved over to right back. Him and Yuri and Timber swapped, but he seemed to struggle a bit in this game, and I think that's why he was shifted out to right back. He couldn't really cope with the playing style of Randall Kolo Muani, who was superb in the 75 minutes that he was on the pitch. Although, yeah, we'll go through the France goals. The first one, it's all about Griezmann, obviously. There was like some talk about Griezmann being unhappy about how Mbappe had been picked as captain for France now that Hugo Lloris has retired. And I mean, they didn't share it. Griezmann looked just, you know, fired up and wanting to give his all. And 2 minutes in, wins the ball back in a dangerous area and makes a late run into the box, gets the ball back off Mbappe, and it's a brilliant finish. And I mean, it just feels like Griezmann's been wasted for a bit of his career, because obviously we all know that throughout maybe a 5-year period at Atletico Madrid, I think from about 2014 to 2019, he was superb for them. There's no denying that, as like sometimes as like the main striker, but sometimes as like a support striker to someone like Fernando Torres, who they had. And he was brilliant. But since that move to Barca in 2019, where he ironically played under the opposition manager tonight, Ronald Koeman, for a season, it just didn't work out at all. And had Barca known what they know now, that he can do such a brilliant job as like not even an attacking midfielder, it's not even like a number 10 role, it is like a full-on number 8 where it's box to box, and it's incredible, because you wouldn't have thought someone like him would have the skill set or even like the physicality or aggression to be able to play that role, because Griezmann had always been seen as this very silky, skillful player who maybe wasn't so good at the dirty side of the game, but he's really shown like he is an all-rounder. There's not a lot of abilities that he is lacking in, really, to be honest. And I mean, he is like absolutely revolutionised this French midfield. The pun had to be there. With the the struggles that they were facing without a couple of their experienced midfielders who were important to them winning the World Cup in 2018. They were. In fact, I think they were missing all three of their starters at the previous World Cup. In this World Cup, Blaise Matuidi is no longer in and around the French squad. Paul Pogba injured all season, and N'Golo Kante injured for the majority of the season. So, there were question marks about France's midfield, but he has been absolutely amazing for them. But yeah, he was superb again tonight, and he helped set up the second goal, put in a really dangerous ball. Now, Jasper Cillessen, I mean, it was poor from him. I understand that he's got to keep his eye on the ball. He can't fully commit just in case someone gets a nick on it at the front post. But when it does get to him, he's got to react quicker than that. And in the end, it just ricochets off Dayot Upamecano and goes back, well, sort of like somehow gets through Cillessen and trickles into the net. And the third coming from Mbappe, this one's probably my favourite goal of the night. Mbappe did score another superb solo goal late on where he just like dummied the ball about 3 times before hammering it into the bottom corner. But the third goal, it's just a lovely pass through, and the role that Kolo Muani plays in this goal without even touching the ball is just absolutely phenomenal, really. And I think Kolo Muani's shown tonight that he has the ability to be the future of this like France number 9 role, because there is question marks over it with Giroud and Benzema, the 2 obvious candidates, both in their mid-30s now, and they're not going to be at the top level for much longer. And Kolo Muani, he obviously scored an important goal in the semi-final against Morocco, if I remember correctly, at the World Cup, and is having an amazing season for Eintracht Frankfurt in Germany. But there was still questions over, is he good enough for the top level? He's proven, I think, tonight to me that he definitely is. He's just got this level of intelligence, and I think he sort of did himself a bit of a disservice tonight in not being on the score sheet with the chance he had early on in the second half, the volley that was played over the top of him. I think it was by Kingsley Coman, who went on this like lightning quick counter attack, and like there was 4 French players just absolutely bolting it into the Dutch penalty area. And it could have been more for France. I think they didn't want to go absolutely crazy, but it was almost a polar opposite from Holland, compared to how they were playing under Louis van Gaal at the World Cup. They changed the system to a 4-3-3 from 5 at the back, and sometimes it takes getting used to, even if it is a system that they were playing just 2 or 3 years ago under the current manager, Ronald Koeman. But it's just one of them, really. It was a really tough day at the office for Holland, and they weren't helped by injuries, and they weren't helped by a new system being implemented that is completely different to the last one. And I think there will be question marks over Ronald Koeman instantly, because he's had a bit of a tough run as like just a manager in general. The last five jobs he's had off the top of my head are the Barcelona job. I can't remember if he's had a job since then. He might well have done. I might be forgetting something, but he had the Barcelona job where he didn't do horrendously, but what wasn't good enough ultimately. Even though Barcelona were going through a really tough period, obviously. Before that, the Dutch job where he didn't do too badly, got to a Nations League final in 2019, but lost to Portugal. qualified for the Euros, which was obviously delayed a year in 2021, and you know did an overall decent job, and that's why he's been rehired, because he was never actually sacked by Holland. He just wanted to take the opportunity that was available at Barcelona. And then before that, I think the job before that was Everton, where he had a decent first season, but the second season started poorly and got sacked. And before that, did a very good job at Southampton with one of Holland's star players currently, Virgil van Dijk, actually. But it's just one of them where there's not really any sort of jobs that he's had recently where you look at and you think he's done an outstanding job there, to be honest. And I think that does raise a bit of a question over him. I think he did very well at Southampton with a very good and very well built team, but since then his track record hasn't been amazing. But yeah, Holland this game, he tried to make a bit of a change early on. Koeman bringing on Wout Weghorst for Kenneth Taylor, and that changed it to a 4-2-4, and it was all out attack, and it made a bit of a difference. But it's hard to tell if that was what made the difference, or was it the fact that France just decided, right, we'll maybe not whack our foot down on the accelerator and play at 100 miles an hour. We'll just slow it down a bit, make sure that it's difficult for Holland to score. They didn't score in the end. The closest they came scoring was a last-minute penalty, which Depay didn't do a great job of. He's usually quite good from the spot, Memphis Depay, but this was quite a poor penalty, to be honest. A good height for Maignan, and he managed to save a rather tame weak rebound as well from Depay. So, not great, but this just shows how good France are on their day. I think the World Cup final, it was strange watching France, because it didn't feel like watching France how they played previously in the tournament, and it was just really sluggish, that first half of the World Cup final, but they got going towards the end. But in the end, it wasn't enough to win the game in a penalty shootout. Anything can happen, can't it, obviously? But yeah, France, they were absolutely brilliant tonight. Holland, in difficult circumstances, quite poor. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and I'll see you next time.